You're listening to Cambodia Business Week with Anthony Galliano and his business friends on Radio 1FM 103.7. Welcome to Cambodia Business Week with your host Anthony Galliano here on Radio 1FM 103.7.
Good morning, Cambodia. It's 7 minutes after the hour, and welcome to Cambodia Business Week on Radio 103.7. This morning, our best special show ever. I have an old friend on, and I'm welcome His Excellency Dr. Siphana.
Just Siphana.
You got a title, you deserve it. Good morning, Dr. Siphana. How are you?
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. We have so much to talk about, so if you don't mind, I really want to get into the interview.
Right.
We got to use your time usefully. Just basically, let's start with where you were born. You're a Cambodian citizen.
Well, I was born here in Phnom Penh.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm just a Phnom Penh noir.
Okay. And you lived during a very difficult time. I think people now are beginning to open up a bit about that time, and it's really important to pass down to generations a little bit of Cambodian history during that difficult time. You were an adolescent during the Khmer Rouge.
Yes. Well, I was not fortunate enough to leave the country on time. You know, I had a scholarship to go to study in Montpellier in France, but by the time I got all the document, everything, the Khmer Rouge circled the airport, and for the next 4 years, I ended up being in Kampong Cham, Kampong Thom.
In the fields.
Yeah, in the field, in the killing field.
Right. And you, I guess, saw a lot of horrible things, but you were able to escape that, right?
Well, 173 family, only 3 family were left alive by the time, the country was liberated.
Right. And what was the key to survival during that period?
I tell you, sometimes it's all luck, but I think it's all the will to live, the will to hang on, the hope that one day that misery will end, and you keep hanging on that hope. Because at the end of the day, right, when you reach a certain stage where you're so hungry, you're starving, there's only one thing left, is the will.
The will to live.
The will to live. You hang on. Other people die because they let go. They don't want, they say, it's too hard to live, what the hell.
Okay, and you were able to escape it. How did you manage to get out of the country?
Well, my sister left before the war, right? And I told my mom, the rest of the family, that I'm going to the border to look for my sister, to our sister. And when I went to the border, I found that she was resettled in the U.S., and that's how, I sent a message back home, and then the rest of my family, my mom, my brother and sister, made the escape, to the border.
Now, these experiences, they could either really harm people very much for life and scar them, or people can come out of them very positively and say, thank goodness I survived and I'm going to make the most of it. It seems that you've come out of it the positive way.
I think that will to live, that will to survive, that, that strong desire is probably what kept me alive, and that's what kept me going. But I think at the end of the day, you have to give the human being that power, that at the end of the day is all about ourselves.
Right. And do you sort of now live every day to the fullest? Because I know you do.
Oh, believe me, I do. I sleep very late. I wake up early. I do my exercise. I look forward for another good day. Every day for me is another great day.
Right, because you barely sleep, if I remember. We've had
6 hours. 6 hours. Wow. That's not so bad. 6 hours, midnight, wake up at 6. You do my karate and everything. It's,
Okay, well, let's talk to the next phase. Is you moved to the U.S.
I went as a refugee.
Right.
Yeah, in 1980.
With your sister, I guess?
Yeah. With the rest of my brother and sister and my mom.
Now, escaping from such difficult times and then going to, I guess, what was the land of opportunity, what were your sort of emotions when you arrived in the U.S.?
Well, my emotion was that, my God, I mean, after 4 years of surviving, everything is possible in the U.S., give me time and I'll do it. Give me time. it's that sense of challenge, right? It's that sense of catching up. It's that sense that if other people can do it, I can do it too. So basically, that was that spirit, because as a refugee, it's not easy.
Right.
Yeah, it's not easy. So you could be easily depressed as much as in the killing field if you don't have a strong will to succeed. And in the U.S., what you had is this opportunity. If you want to do something, you can never say you don't have the opportunity.
Right. So
that's probably what drive me.
Which city did you land in?
Virginia.
Virginia. Oh,
yes,
very
yes.
nice.
Yes.
And you have achieved so much in the educational field. What was your first school did you go to in the U.S.?
I went to a community college.
So did I, by the way.
Yes.
That's how you start.
Yeah, that's how you start as a refugee. You cannot get a better deal than that. Then I went to George Mason, but I did the whole 4-year program, a whole bachelor, in exactly 2 years.
That's something. I mean, that's very interesting because you had a time where you didn't get any education.
Yes. And
and then all of a sudden
but during the killing field, what I managed to do during the whole period is to, so like in hiding, I was reading. I had 4 books.
That would have been very dangerous, right?
Yeah, very dangerous. But you find way you cover the pages as if it's like wrapping paper.
Right.
But then every day you silently read, right? And it's amazing the power of the subconscious learning. I have 4 books which shaped my life really. The first is French and English dictionary. So imagine every day I read a few pages, right? And that's why later on when I went to America, I realized that I know so many words I didn't know I knew.
Right. So you also had a very strong interest in law, right from the beginning, correct?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of happenstance, and law happened to be one of the area that
What fascinated you about law?
I think law is a framework. Law gives you a framework. And then everything else, evolve around that framework, In business, in anything you do, if you have a good legal framework, a structure, you have a sort of like a roadmap in a way.
And besides law, when you were studying, what other subjects fascinated you?
Business, marketing.
Not accounting, though.
No, as a lawyer, we hate number, except when we send a bill.
Okay, well, you are embarking on your 3rd doctorate, which is amazing. You're and excuse me if I don't get these French words correct, but you're doing cooperative law with the prestigious
comparative
law. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is. Could you tell us a little bit about your 3rd doctorate?
Well, my first one is a Juris Doctor from U.S. Right? It's to practice law, and then I had a PhD from Bond University, Australia, which is give me another dimension on the the Anglo-Saxon common law system. But I find that in Cambodia is shifting back to a civil law system. And in the business context, we are submerged in ASEAN, in this globalized world with all this economic transaction driven by Anglo-Saxon lawyer, right? From Australia, from England, from US. But then our court system is all trained in the civil law context. So, and a civil code, the Japanese brought in back the civil law. So I thought that one day there'll be a clash of the two systems. And I thought, well, if that's the case, I might as well prepare. So that's why I applied to, Paris 2, which is one of a major reputable law school in France, because I want to do in French.
Yeah,
I want to write in French.
Right.
Because if language matter, and particularly in the legal context, if you miss the nuance through misinterpretation or mistranslation, right? So I thought, if I'm doing civil law, I'm going to go straight to the source. I want to do it in French. And it's also a childhood dream also. I mean, I studied in French, in my childhood, and the war interrupted the whole thing. So I thought at my age now, I'm 55, I might as well fulfill my childhood dream, If I can do this PhD, great.
It's going to take you about 3 years, you said.
3 or 4 years, depend on my time.
And this is the question: how do you even find the time to do it? How do you, time management must be a massive secret.
I believe that at the end of the day, right? It's the art of multitasking. It's the art of doing 2 things, 3 things, at one time. And I believe I'm good at multitasking. I sort of synchronize, when I do what, and then, there are times you need to do some substantive thinking. There are times you should not do substantive thinking. There are times that you can do 2 things at one time. There are times you can do 3 things at one time. When you run a treadmill, right? You can listen to music. That's 2 activities, right? But if you listen in French music, you manage to also refresh your French language. So you see, what somebody do in 1 hour, just getting sweat. I got my sweat. I got my, entertainment, and I got my French up to date.
So multitasking
is the key.
Now we have a very young audience that listens to us. A lot of students, a lot of people just entering the business world. Can you tell us the importance and your philosophy on education?
I think street smart can take you, but so far, most entrepreneurs are good street smart. They have the will, they have the desire. They move on.
And you see this in business every day.
Yes.
Right.
But when you reach certain level, street smart will not take you far. You need academic smart. You need theory smart.
And a lot of people still believe if I have good people around me, that sort of subsidizes the lack of education. But that's not really true.
Well, if you are running a business, you are the leader, right? And if you are weaker, your knowledge is lesser than your advisor. What sort of question you ask your advisor? You ask the wrong question, you got the wrong answer.
And that really is the tail wagging the dog.
Yes.
That's
yes.
Okay. We're going to take a quick break and let you catch your breath a little bit.
All right.
You're doing a great job.
Thanks.
All right. You're listening to Radio 1, Cambodia Business Week. We'll be right back with Dr. Siphana, and we'll talk more about important subjects like ASEAN, construction law, and a few other things. Be right back.
We speak to the movers and shakers of the business world. So when it comes to business in Cambodia, look no further than the Cambodia Business Week on Radio 1 FM 103.7. Welcome to Cambodia Business Week with your host Anthony Galliano here on Radio 1 FM 103.7.
It's 23 minutes after the hour. You're listening to Cambodia Business Week on Radio 1 103.7 FM. We're here with Dr. Siphana. We're returning after our first segment. We left off when we were talking about education. After your great achievements in the educational system, it's time to go to work. We always
It helped.
We always ask people on the show what was their first job.
Yeah. My first job. Well, my first job in the U.S. while I was going to school, right, I was a real estate salesman. Because
Really?
as a refugee, that's the only job I could get that people don't have to pay you salary. Because you have to sell and then they give you commission. But if you don't sell, so basically that's how I have a start.
Right. So what period was that? I mean,
1980.
So those were the boom.
81, right?
So those were the boom years, the Reagan years, if I remember correctly, when real estate was booming.
Exactly, yes.
So you were selling real estate in Virginia?
Yes.
And how was that? Tell us what you learned from that first job.
Well, I would say I have no clue then. It's more a survival, right? But then it's all about determination, right? Determination to succeed, determination to catch up, determination to win, right? And it was that drive that forced you to spend time to learn, to read, to catch up, to ask, to work late, And at the end, it's all hard work, sweat, equity.
And were you successful at it?
I would say I was a very good young salesman.
Okay.
Got my first car, in the next several months, and got my first Mercedes even.
Wow.
In the first year.
Well, there's always an opportunity here now.
I'm telling you.
We'll talk about that in a bit. You returned to Cambodia, but I'm interested. So you were very successful in the U.S. The U.S. embraced you, I guess. You got a great education. You as you said, you were very successful.
I wouldn't say I was surviving like everybody else, taking full advantage of the opportunity offered in the U.S.
But were you missing Cambodia?
Well, I would say I hate it because the memory was very, very painful. And I came to Cambodia not because of my own. It's arranged marriage. My mom and my parent-in-law then.
And you must have had friends in the U.S., obviously from school. And
What
were they saying to you?
They say, you're crazy. Arranged marriage nowadays. Hey, look, now I'm back home, 23-year married, to the same woman, 2 kids, happily married after 23 years.
And I think the U.S. has about 60-something% divorce rate. So you've done really well.
I don't say that arranged marriage is for everybody. It's not for everybody.
But you came back to get married, and you have a wonderful wife, obviously.
Thank you very much.
And
yes.
2 wonderful children, so the family life has worked out quite well.
Yes.
All right, what were your first impressions of Cambodia when you came back?
It's hard. It was very painful.
1993, right?
1993, yeah. And a few weeks later, I got a job with the United Nations, as a consultant, management consultant.
When you came back, so the intent was to stay?
Well, no, was to get married. But then a week later, it happened that the UN have a mission on administrative reform, and they happened to looking for somebody, and I happened to be there because I live like 4 hours away from UNDP.
Right.
So
then you decided to settle in.
Yeah, and then but basically after the short consultancy, I'm married now. I still need a visa for my wife. But then there was an opening in New York where the posting as a lawyer will be in Cambodia. So I applied and I got a job. And that's how I stay on in Cambodia for the next 4 years.
Okay, so I know it was a little difficult when you first came back. What was Cambodia like coming from the U.S. and coming to Cambodia in 1993, which was still really underdeveloped?
Tremendously.
Dirt roads.
Yes, exactly. It's blackout every couple hours, no decent food. I would say a lot of health issue, I would say. But what I miss most is that there's no good library.
And is there any chance we're going to get a good library here in Cambodia soon?
Well, I hope, that the government would, work with the Ministry of Education, for example, to have more of this public library. It's important,
Right.
It's very, very important.
I think these days we have digital. So, I mean, if people want to read, it's very easy just to go online.
But I tell you, Anthony, nothing beats, having a hard, paper book, right?
Right.
You
very rarely see anybody doing that these days, reading a book in public.
Yeah, but I think, electronic book, it's good for short reading. But when you have to read academic book, you have to read serious material, you cannot get away from real book,
Well, you worked as a consultant for UNDP, the World Bank, ADB. What were those institutions trying to achieve for Cambodia post Khmer Rouge, post Vietnam era? What were they trying to achieve?
Well, in the early days, all about reconstruction. It's all about rebuilding the social structure, the financial structure, the physical infrastructure. So it's a lot of this rebuilding mode, right? And I would say they meant well, okay? They meant well. But I'm not totally, 20 years later, if I look in retrospect, we could have done very differently than what the Bretton Woods institution would have pushed us.
What did they achieve, and what was sort of the lacked opportunities in the end?
I think the Big Bang approach have its dark side 2 decades later, We could have taken a more gradual approach in terms of, liberalizing the economy, privatization of the economy, that sort of thing. They went for this Big Bang liberalization, and it was too fast a transition, right? The demographic, the democratic transition was too fast. But anyway, I think they meant well. That's all I'm saying, right? For post-crisis country, to have gone such a dramatic transition, I would say we did well. Not perfect, but let's not make the best the enemy of the good.
Yeah. Well, it was a great achievement, but obviously there is a lot of changes going on in Cambodian law still to this day, correct?
Yes.
So are these perhaps lack of opportunities from the past being sort of addressed now?
I would say there's a strong emergence of a intellectual body in the Cambodian community, the young scholar who got a scholarship from abroad. And I probably say that one of the best things that the development partner, the donor, have helped Cambodia has been on giving Cambodia the scholarship. That's the main sustainable effort that I can see. Because this Cambodian kid coming back from Australia, US, France, Singapore, they come back, with a education system, with a way that they can, sustainably support the development of their country. Unlike in the early day, it was all about substituting what the Cambodians do not have. So I would say this younger generation of well-educated, returning after years of studying abroad, with the help of this the scholarship and everything, to me, they will be the next generation that will help fulfill the gap, the missing link that the development community could not have done.
I want to talk about your first really key position in Cambodia, which was Secretary of State, Vice Minister, Ministry of Commerce. Which I think back at that time, the foreign investment interest in Cambodia probably wasn't that high. So you had to actually sell the country a little bit at that time.
Well, I think, again, it was for a country, it's a survival mode. Because we have to negotiate the accession to the WTO. As a small country, we don't have large market size. We need assurance that the major market will remain open through a rule base, right? Not at the whims of some big donor. And the decision of the Prime Minister, Hun Sen, to push for this fast accession to WTO was a lifesaver for the country. We secure the garment industry. We managed to build a base of the legal framework that are required to attract foreign investor. And I think now, because of this solid base of economic liberalization, well planned, well structured, well negotiated, we are able to sustain, this momentum as Cambodia now join a full-fledged member of the ASEAN community.
When I've talked to you in the past, I think the accession to the WTO has a special place in your heart because it really was one of your major achievements for the country. How important is the WTO accession? Because I don't think Cambodians, realize it.
I think Cambodia, growth, Cambodia's survival, Cambodia prosperity has been driven to a tremendously large part by the accession to WTO. Because that's when we have made, like I said, a well-negotiated economic liberalization of this country, of this economy. And that explains for the last 10 years why we continue to have foreign direct investment coming to the country. This country in ASEAN is probably the most liberal and open economy.
And we're seeing so much foreign FDI coming in now, right? So much foreign investment coming in.
Because they have opportunity to invest in pretty much every sector of our economy. Try to go to Thailand. Try to go to Vietnam. Try to go to Malaysia. See if you can do whatever, invest in whatever sector you want. You can, because there's a lot of restriction, there's a lot of limitation.
And I know in Cambodia, one of the wonderful things is you don't need a foreign partner.
That's a great thing.
You don't need a local partner. So you can come in, it's the capital barriers are very low. It's only at $1,300 of capital, and you don't have to have a local partner.
And you see, when we negotiated the WTO, right, and I happen to be the negotiator there, and that's why it's very dear to me, because we find that, look, Cambodia started with a zero base, right? Post-crisis, 93. We don't have knowledge. We don't have experience. We don't have money. We don't have saving. So if you don't have all that, what you do? You're looking to attract people who have all of that. And to me, there are time to cooperate. There are time to compete. Cambodia is still in a mode of cooperation. We need to attract JV partner. We need to attract FDI to team up with the local partner. And you see already that many of these local partner, after many years of partnering with the foreign investor, they now learn enough, they now save enough, they now know enough that they can go on their own. And that's how you build a society in a post-crisis environment.
Right. So let's bridge this a little bit to ASEAN, because ASEAN is very important as well.
All right.
And I think, and honestly, I'm going to say the same thing. I'm still a little confused how important ASEAN is to Cambodia. And if I'm confused, I think a lot of people are as well. What does ASEAN mean? In 2015, we're now part of ASEAN. What does it mean to Cambodia?
I think it means political stability. Foremost, it means that now we're part of a larger community where we adhere, where we share the same vision, which is prosperity, stability, unity. And this is important. For a small country like Cambodia, of 15 million, we need that mass.
But if we're looking at what's happening in the EU now, for instance, with the possible exit of Britain, you kind of this kind of are these communities in the end helpful to countries if it doesn't work out for them in particular at a certain moment? Start getting edgy. So, what does it actually mean when we see Britain sort of looking to exit a community and we're just entering a community?
I think different countries have different priority, different political agenda. For Cambodia, for us, at least the way I see from what Prime Minister Hun Sen has done from the very get-go, he believed that Cambodia should be integrated in the world. It should be integrated in the larger regional and global community.
I'm going to ask you to hold that thought.
Yes.
We're going to take a quick break and then we'll continue.
All right.
We speak to the movers and shakers of the business world. So when it comes to business in Cambodia, look no further than the Cambodia Business Week on Radio 1 FM 103.7. Welcome to Cambodia Business Week with your host Anthony Galliano here on Radio 1 FM 103.7.
22 minutes before the hour, you're back with Cambodia Business Week and Dr. Siphana. We left off quickly on ASEAN, and I think what I'll ask is very probably what the small businessman wants to know. If I'm running a small business, an SME, and I'm growing, because I think the big businesses understand ASEAN pretty well.
Yes.
What does it mean to me? What's the opportunities, and what do I have to prepare myself for?
ASEAN is a very macro concept, right? And to me, one have to take it at a different gradual step, right? Like you say, the big company understand, but for the small company, they cannot hope, nor should we expect them to hope that they know full well about ASEAN. But they will be the direct beneficiary of this economic growth.
In what way? In what way?
In what way? For example, ASEAN, we're moving toward a one single production base, right? Thailand will always have the assembly of the car, for example, right? The Japanese will not move the whole car assembly to Cambodia, but they will have the component made in Cambodia. They will use a natural resource like latex, for example, from rubber, right? To make car spare part made of rubber. And so here, Cambodia will have an opportunity to take one or two links of the whole supply chain. And if the small Cambodian, the medium-sized Cambodian company, the guy who owns a small plantation, that's how he's going to get a piece of the pie. But if there is no supply chain across the region, where can we have our entry point?
Okay, and I think that's a good point. So if you're thinking about starting a business, and now we've now part of ASEAN in 2015, what particular industries have the best opportunities? If I'm a young listener now and I'm ready to go into business, what would you suggest?
Look, Cambodia is a trading nation. We start from zero base. Our growth throughout Phnom Penh. If you drive throughout Phnom Penh, you drive throughout the major city, right, in Phnom Penh, you see all these entrepreneurs are all trading because we have not developed our own product yet, right? So they're trading. They're thriving through trade, right? And through trade, they start to develop, their indigenous product through technology, that sort of thing, right? Assembly, manufacturing, that sort of thing. So to me, I have to say that you have to look as a gradual process. First, you accumulate the knowledge. Then you accumulate the saving. And then now, with the good thing about the availability of technology, once you have the money, the knowledge, you can buy technology. And with technology, the local Cambodian can make dry fish, vacuum seal that meet the health standard and can still export to Japan and to the US or to the EU. So that's how I see this whole, trickle-down effect of this ASEAN. Because what ASEAN does, and that's most people don't know and will never know because it don't affect their life directly, is that we're working on standard, for example. We're working on some 50 automobile and electrical standard. You think without this standard, you think the Japanese will move the car spare part in Cambodia? We're working on health standard. We're working on medicinal standard. Without this standard, how can we have a traditional medicines packaging, for example, that we can sell?
That's a very important point. So it brings standardization,
Yes.
which makes investors much more
Yes.
happy to come and much more comfortable to come.
And that's
Covers
why
that risk.
it's a bit difficult to bring such a technical level down to the micro affecting a life of a particular entrepreneur.
Right. I got it.
But they are the beneficiary
That's-
without knowing it.
I have to cover one of the most important topics that people are talking about now,
Yes.
and that's construction.
Yes.
And property.
Yes.
I just came from the Cambodia Property Awards the other night. What struck me is, and I thought it was great that they actually came here, and we had our first big gala event.
Yes.
But when the property awards were being announced, what
Yes.
I noticed is that we saw sketches of properties
Yeah.
rather than actual properties being nominated and given
Yes.
awards.
Yes.
Which I think in the next 2 years, I think people are predicting 20,000 plus apartments coming online. And the question is, the government obviously is concerned. There's been some discussion amongst the government about, are we really having a bubble? Are we seeing what was talked about, I guess, last year, that it wasn't a credit bubble because the banks weren't lending. Now we understand the banks are lending into the property market pretty heavily. You're working on construction law, which is a separate topic, but what is your opinion on what's going on in the property market, the Phnom Penh skyline?
I think as an integrated economy, if Cambodia is still in isolation, I'll be worried because there's not enough Cambodian middle class who will buy this 20,000 unit. But as an integrated Cambodia in ASEAN economic community with a free flow of goods and service passing through between the larger market of Vietnam and Thailand, Cambodia in the middle with all this industrial zone, this free trade zone, this special economic zone that's being built, with the Japanese inflow of foreign direct investment, I think 20,000 units is not a lot. And bear in mind, the ASEAN 6 who always feel that they are the most advanced, their market is saturated. And where do you think the Singaporean, the Taiwanese, the Malaysian, who do not want to buy in their country anymore because the price has reached a point where it's a rate of diminishing return. Now, where do you think this entrepreneur, this investor would look to buy? They will still look at Cambodia as, at least for the next 10 years or so, as a source of profitable real estate investment or speculation.
Okay. And I guess the 50% of so are being actually bought by foreign investors, from what I understand.
Yes.
So effectively, we are seeing a good combination of local investors and foreign investors. But in these markets, of course, a lot of people that have the wealth. There's a transition of assets into property over other investment classes. Is there going to be a lot of empty apartments?
I think, let's face it, apartment condominium is a new lifestyle. The old Cambodian, would not, they want a land, they want a villa, they want to have some garden. But look, if you're a young entrepreneur, young Cambodian worker, right? If a young professional, newly married, do you think you can afford to have a villa with a garden in the suburb of Phnom Penh? You have to be crazy to think like that. But for you, if you're just newly married with a decent income together, your best option is to move into a condominium as your investment. So to me, it's a change of lifestyle also. And also, Anthony, look at all the dilapidated, house throughout all the major road in Phnom Penh. Kampuchea Krom, Monivong, Mao Sentung, all the people who live on the second and third and fourth floor. Now they have opportunity to sell their unit to the guy on the ground floor who is expanding their entrepreneur business. And guess what? With $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 that I'm selling to the guy on the ground floor, I put in one borei, I put in one condominium deposit. With the bank lending I can repay $400 or $500 a month, and now I live in a decent, comfortable, modern building.
Absolutely. I think you're right. And we've seen the skyline in Bangkok and Jakarta and Singapore change.
Yes.
And those markets are still pretty healthy. I want to go on quickly to e-commerce because this is young entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Absolutely want to get into the e-commerce business. There is a lack of, structure in place for e-commerce. And you're working very hard on that, I believe.
On the e-commerce law. We hope it get passed this year.
What's happening with the e-commerce laws?
Well, the draft is done, right? They're working on the Khmer version now. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that this year, this draft will be passed by the government and then eventually submit to the parliament.
Okay, and quickly on the construction laws that you're working, because you're
that's the same thing.
You've been very you're advocating safety and standards
yes,
as well.
I at the request of the senior minister of land management, I was asked to assist in the drafting of this law, and we worked nearly 2 years. Again, the draft is finished. We're finalizing the Khmer technical word, and this year it will be passed. And I think this law will change dramatically the landscape of the construction in terms of safety, in terms of protection, consumer protection, in terms of building the skill, of the building practitioner, and ensuring that they are building proper, building. That have value, that will sustain all this quality standard. And ultimately, a good quality building is the best investment protection for a consumer.
Well, we got to thank you for that because that's a very important move in Cambodia. I want to talk about something close to your heart as well, which is karate. we get something on the personal. You are a black belt in karate. I got to be careful what I ask.
Well, 5th-degree black belt. I've been practicing for last, God knows, nearly half of my life. I think karate. I have 2 hobbies, by the way. One is music, which every weekend I play in the band. I have my own band. We jam 4 or 5 hours on the weekend. And then the other hobby is karate, which is a martial art. And these two is different, right? Music help your soul. Music help your mind. Music help you soothe your spirit, your feeling, It's a soft dimension of your life. Martial art, it gives you discipline. It gives you a sense of confidence. It gives you a sense of safety. And it gives you a sense of I would say, balance. And, when you do martial art, you know when to retreat. You know when to attack, right? And in a workplace, if you apply this martial art principle, you find that it's very helpful.
I'm going to ask you one last question, and thank you for that. What would be your message to the youth of Cambodia? You've been through a lot of struggles and a lot of achievements and wonderful achievements in your life. What's the message to the youth of Cambodia?
For the youth, focus on education, learning, lifelong learning. Not just for the youth, for the middle age. It's important that we continue learning because the moment we stop learning, we are behind the curve. And in a globalized world, in a regionalized world, only education can equalize, us vis-a-vis our neighbor.
So the message is keep on learning.
Yes, that's it.
Okay, Dr. Siphana, I want to thank you very much for coming on the show. This has been an incredible conversation. I hope to have you back someday. And really thank you very much.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
We'll be right back after this short musical break.
We speak to the movers and shakers of the business world. So when it comes to business in Cambodia, look no further than the Cambodia Business Week on Radio 1 FM 103.7. Welcome to Cambodia Business Week with your host Anthony Galliano here on Radio 1 FM 103.7.
We're back. Hard act to follow, but if anybody can do it, is my next guest, who's a great friend and an incredible person to talk to. What a show today. We have Yulia Khouri. Good morning, Yulia.
Good morning, Anthony. Thank you for having me.
No problem. You're used to sitting on the other side, right?
Yes, there was time then, and it's kind of an interesting place here. I love it. Thank you for having me.
Yulia started the lifestyle show now, which is with Lady Miriam, but that was your idea and your creation, so it's good to have you on the other side. But we have so much to talk about, so first let's just talk about where you're from.
Born in the Ukraine, became a refugee at a young age to Canada, educated in the States and in the UK. And then expat for the last 18 years.
Around the world.
Around the world, mostly Gulf and Middle East, but also Africa.
And a lot of charitable, philanthropic causes.
Most of my career and my education is in economics and politics and social policy. And I made my career with the UN and with the humanitarian agencies, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, and the UN, UNHCR, the last one.
Okay, so what did you study in school? What was your degree in?
Well, I come from the Jewish Eastern European environment. You have to be either doctor, lawyer, or engineer. And I've decided to say, okay, fine, I'll study neuroscience for mom and political science for myself. And then when I did my graduate studies, then I've decided to do it for myself. So I did the studies in political science.
And you have something on your CV that I always find very interesting. It's something that you actually do as a product in your company, which is psychometric testing.
That's true.
Tell me about psychometric testing.
Well, we just look at people and and want to know how they think. Essentially, it's a tool to understand the personality type, and we use that tool to apply to our clients and tell them, look, this person cannot be a salesman because they're more introverted. They're much more comfortable doing work behind the scenes, and they will excel in that role. Somebody who's extrovert and have a lot of people skills would be a great salesperson, great PR person, and so on and so forth. So that's a short version of psychometric testing.
So what brought you to Cambodia, Yulia?
I think a lot of us came to Cambodia by sheer chance, invitation from one of the telcos to do a small project for 6 months. My partner, Darren, who's a partner at Innovate. And so 6 months we stayed here, and then we've decided to stay. That was 6 years ago, and we're still here, and nobody's going anywhere.
So you also, Darren is a very important part of your life. He's actually your partner in business and your partner in life. I have a very same situation with my dear Bopa, and Dr. Siphana has the same situation with his wife Melly. So we have a good model this morning of three businesses and that actually have a great partnership in both in life and in business.
Absolutely. Without Darren, there would be no Innovate. That's for sure.
Okay, let's talk about Innovate. So you are the CEO.
Yeah.
And I think you call yourself the absolute monarch as well.
Absolutely. I am an absolute dictator. I walk in and everybody stands up. No, I'm just kidding. Guys, you're listening. I'm joking.
Okay, so tell us about Innovate. What does Innovate do?
So basically, we started as a consultancy, and we sort of morphed as the market was opening up, and the market within the last 6 years opened up quite significantly. It grew out of proportion. We didn't see that coming, but it came. So essentially, Innovate at the moment, our core business is in research and in IT and digital side of things. Basically, writing a back software, the software systems, something that we also apply for research, for instance. So when we do research, whether it's branding, brand awareness, whether it's customer satisfaction service, whether it's omnibus, it's always in real time, and it's always in a software that has been customized to the customer needs.
Okay, research is really important in this market because there is sort of a lack of firms that do it. It's very hard to get research data in the market.
Yeah.
What do you bring to the table with research? If I'm just very simple Coca-Cola, I want to know how many people are drinking Coke, how many people are drinking Pepsi, and why they drink those particular soft drinks. How do you bring anybody that needs research for their products? How do you address that?
Well, I mean, there are a couple of things that are extremely important in research anyways. That's validity and reliability of your data. If you don't have a valid data, you're going to basically base your business on absolute nothing. And same with the reliability. The sample size is another huge issue. If you want to know who drinks Coca-Cola, why they drink it, and why they choose it over their competitor, you cannot ask 10 people. You cannot ask 20 people, and you cannot ask 100 or 1,000 people and only in Phnom Penh. Because your business or Coca-Cola's business in your example is a countrywide. So essentially what we're trying to do, and being educated at Berkeley, all we did is research. We have been drilled in research. No matter what you study, whether it's political science or neuroscience, what have you, you had to know how to do your statistics. So it was always statistics.
And this is critical because the market is really just starving for data.
Yeah.
What other firms are doing it? I mean, we usually have a Nielsen in a market like this, right?
Look, I mean, we look at the market and we see, we have obviously a great competitors, which we respect and we respect their work. But as a capitalist market economy, you have to be a step
ahead of the game.
Ahead of the game, exactly. Thank you.
Okay.
And so what we do is not only we apply an international standards of research, we also make sure that we are digital and we're real time and we're very, very quick to give the data and correct analysis to the client.
And you also do a lot of work for companies on the quality of the delivery of their products.
Absolutely.
Which is something Cambodian companies are beginning to care about now?
I think, to be honest, I think I agree with the previous guest that you had. I mean, the intellectual capacity of the market has grown in the 5 years tremendously. We should not underestimate our customers, whether it's small business, medium business, or a corporate client.
Because also consumers are getting more demanding for quality service.
And understanding what they want and also demanding the companies to ask them, what do you want us to give you? Rather than here's the product, buy it, take it or leave it. And so this is where research is fundamental for absolutely any business.
So I think you have those little machines where you press the smileys and could you tell us about those.
Yeah, we have these machines now in all airports in Cambodia, and it's customer.
That was you guys, right?
Absolutely. Okay. Yes. So these are ours, and these are customer satisfaction surveys. Basically, it's in real time. Any customer at the airport can give the experience to the airport management on absolutely anything, on any experience within the airport community, whether it's in shops, in the coffee shops, in the security, in the check-in, or anything else.
Let me ask you, I guess.
And we had that. I'm sorry, but we did have it also in ANZ Bank with a huge success as well.
All right. So key messages here. You guys do great research. You also measure what customers want, how they feel about the products, and their satisfaction levels.
And internal customer satisfactions are important. Every company should know what their employees need to stay on board, and we can do that as well.
So human resource activity.
Absolutely. In the research and the data type of.
Now this is important because the state of the Cambodian employment market is very transitory, migratory. People don't stay. What's the key to have people staying at jobs?
You need to entice people with becoming a lot. Look, there's a change of discourse. People don't work for you. People are work with you. And this is discourse that should become sort of an idea and paradigm in the market. You have to entice people with the bonuses, the capacity building, their skill building, and of course, a proper salaries. The skill equals salary. Salary equals respect. Respect equals, and it's a huge. It's a bunch of things that essentially needs to be applied in this market as well.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. Sure. We want to talk about your efforts with the Wildlife Alliance, and we'll even talk a little bit about your modeling.
Oh my gosh! All right.
So we'll be back. We'll be back shortly after this musical break.
Thank you.
We speak to the movers and shakers of the business world. So when it comes to business in Cambodia, look no further than the Cambodia Business Week on Radio 1 FM 103.7. Welcome to Cambodia Business Week with your host Anthony Galliano here on Radio 1 FM 103.7.
We're having an extended Cambodia Business Week this week.
Wow, thank you.
We have just such great guests on. We have to use our time. Let's before we get into your work with the Wildlife Alliance, let's talk a little bit about your modeling, because you're a fashion guru, right?
Oh no, I'm not. I used to look. When I was young, I used to model under a watchful eye of my mom. My father is an artist, and so through this, he passed away a decade ago. But he was an artist, and so through that community, I sort of started modeling. But as soon as I reached a certain age, my mom said, "Halas, no more modeling. Now we study. Now we become somebody." And so when I came to Cambodia, creative side of my dad is always with me. And so I'm always looking for some type of a creative activity. So modeling is nothing but that expression of creativity, because I'm not only sort of, playing around near the camera, but also allowed to work with very talented people. So that's a treat for me.
So you are still modeling a little bit.
Just creative playing. Let's put it a creative hobby. Let's put it this way.
Okay. So what I've always admired about you and your company also is the fact that you have a CSR program in philosophy.
We do.
You do donate regularly to companies here.
Yes.
Causes, not companies.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
Tell us about some of your passionate causes that you have.
We have been a consistent donor and supporter for 4 years now of Women Peacemakers, and that's a grassroots community of women, an organization that works to prevent domestic violence, and they do the most amazing work. I found out about them, learned about them when I was performing in Vagina Monologues 4 years ago, and all the donations from the ticket sales went to this group. I met the founder, and I found their work absolutely fascinating. And so after the review, every single month we're there, and this year we got this amazing letter from the founder thanking us for being a donor.
And what's the situation in Cambodia with domestic violence? Is it getting better? Because there is a lot of awareness about it.
I think that there is awareness in maybe an urban environment. I think we still need to address, there's a lot of work to be done in rural environment, and there's still sort of inequalities, gender inequalities that do exist.
Is this something that's cultural?
No, I don't want to say it's cultural. I mean, there's a lot of blame always put on the culture. Oh, Islamic. Oh, that's because of Islam. Oh, it's this. It's not. It's not cultural. It's not religious. It is something that people decide that they can get away with. And so once they stop getting away with it, and once they understand that there's an equality, gender equality that actually benefits both genders, then we can move on.
Hey guys, if you don't know by now, the women are the boss.
Thank you. And this is why I'm a dictator and innovate.
All right. Yeah. Really close to your heart is actually animal welfare.
Absolutely.
And now tell us about your recent appointment with Wildlife Alliance.
Well, it's something that has been coming, to be honest. A huge honor for me, of course, to be named as an ambassador of such an amazing organization. I think Siphana, the founder, Nick, who is a director there, and Eddie, who is a law enforcement for forest protection. These people are my heroes. The way that they go about looking at the environment, at the conservation, is amazing. And as a business person, I'm not leaving my full-time job, obviously.
You got to make a living.
But exactly. But as I feel that my appointment as an ambassador in the business environment is sort of a message also to a business community. Take a stand. take your name, take your role in the business community, and take a cause and talk about this. We can make a difference because we are here in this country. We are making money and living here in this country, and it's important that we do something for this country.
What is your key role as the ambassador?
Exactly that, raising awareness among the people that I work with.
You've been in the field also.
Absolutely, and I travel in the field quite often with the Wildlife Alliance, both in rangers stations. So Wildlife Alliance works with the government. It's extremely important. The government and Wildlife Alliance are partners. So I travel around and I see what they do, and this is why I promote them. I don't raise awareness about their work unless I know and see what they do, and what they do is incredible.
And what has been your early findings now in the role?
People don't realize just what's happening. Forest is disappearing, animals are disappearing, Cambodia is losing a lot of flora and fauna, and we need to try and help preserve that. Cambodia needs to grow in every single way possible.
I mean, you're my hero. That's
and you're mine. Thank
that's
you.
That's absolutely fantastic.
The heroes are out there. I'm just their voice.
Okay, well, we really thank you for coming back and visiting the station as a civilian.
Yeah, sure.
And,
Thank you for having me.
We'll have you back on again to talk more about your success, hopefully, in this role. And
thank you very much, Anthony.
Okay. Signing off, Anthony. See you next week.
Bye.